Your question is, how do I know whether any action, decision is coming from the intellect or ego? There's not much of difference. Okay, the intellect is supposed to be the master, but really it's not the master. Ego is the master in our life. So intellect works based on the inputs which are given by ego. So intellect is not independent from the ego in all the people. So any decision is tainted with the I, me and mine. That's called ego. So intellect is not at all free. Intellect is working under the slavery of the ego. So all decisions are nothing but biased by ego. Of course, there are some decisions in life which are not personal. So, like something is happening somewhere which is not personal. So that time intellect will work with more clear understanding without ego. Okay, when things relate to personal, ego will definitely come into picture. Okay, so all decisions are biased by ego. So there's no question of intellect taking a decision of its own. So there is these many decisions are based on most of the decisions are based on ego-based understanding of life. Only in a jnani, so the intellect becomes free from the ego. With proper definition, Atma, Anatma Viveka, Nitya Nitya Viveka, intellect becomes free from the clutches of the ego. So that the intellect works under the guidance of Sakshi, the witness. So at that time, the decisions are based on the unbiased decisions, based on the Sakshi happens through intellect. Otherwise, all decisions are ego-based. But as your discrimination develops, discrimination for Atma, Anatma Viveka, Nitya Nitya Viveka, it's separated. Atma, Anatma means self and non-self. Nitya Nitya means eternal and temporary. The discrimination develops in you. Gradually, there's a little bit more freedom from the ego. Okay? More and more you become objective in decision making. Right? Dharma, Adharma, Viveka. What is Dharma? What is Adharma? What is righteousness? What is ethical? What is non-ethical? So this discrimination also develops. So as it develops, there's a gradual freedom from the ego. Okay, the total freedom from the ego happens with the enlightenment. But before that, it's a gradual freedom. So then we can say, what is the sign of the freedom from ego? Progressively or finally? We say objectivity in life, right? Or be objective. Be objective, you say, right? Management, when you are a manager, be objective, you say. That means, do not bring your personal biases into decision making, right? So it's a bit easier in a work to be objective, but it becomes difficult in the personal life. Object and subject get mixed up. Okay, so the example for this is the story of the king Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra was the blind king, and he had 100 children. Okay, he is supposed to be a king. King should be objective in all decision making. Okay, but for every failure of his children or every wrongdoing of his children, he is blind. That's why blindness is also symbolic. He is spiritually blind. Okay, but he is okay. He is objective with respect to people of the kingdom. So when we are not related, we are objective. Intellect makes a proper decision. Just that based on the reasoning. But the moment it comes to the subject, ahankara and mamakara, I, me and mine, there's a personality gets coming to picture. Subject comes to picture. So the intellect becomes, when the moment a subject comes to picture, intellect comes under the ego, in terms of ego. Okay. So all your questions, subjective in life is ego-based decisions. But yes, there's a hope. As your discrimination develops, you become less and less dependent on the ego, and more depend on the sakshi for decision making. That's the journey. So I would say it like this. The body is an object for us, consciousness. But we have made the body as subject. Okay? And making the body as making subject and me is the source of the ego. But as your distinction develops, Viveka develops, the subject becomes object. Your body becomes object, not a subject, me. Then the decisions are more clearer and based on the witness rather than the ego. Okay? So I would say objective vision of subject has to happen. Objective vision of subject called body and mind has to happen. Objective vision. Okay? Objective vision of a subject called body and mind. So then what will happen? Intellect becomes free from the clutches of the ego. So that's actually spiritual journey. It cannot happen overnight. But as your Viveka, discrimination and Vairagya develops, more and more objectivation of the subject happens. Objectivation of the subject called me happens. So then decisions will be much more clearer. So then it will be more based on the sakshi rather than the ego. It won't happen overnight. It's a gradual process. But finally, when you are able to get out of the clutches from the ego, at the stage, at the moment of enlightenment, so then no more body is an object, body is a subject. It's an object. So then all decisions which you take are based on the consciousness, the sakshi, the witness. Is the answer clear?
On this one.
Okay, is there?
So there are three types of egos: tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic ego. Would you be able to tell on the same question which one is being referred to as the progression towards?
Okay. So the question here, continuation question, the egos are of three types: tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic. Okay. Where is the progress taking place? Progression is from tamasic and rajasic state. It will be in a tamasic and rajasic state. Egos are intellect is completely driven by ego, by and large, for subjective decisions. For a person may be rajasic, but in the office he may be still objective in the business decision. But finally, somewhere subject catches up. So tamasic and rajasic is what we call as mostly ego-based decision making. In sattvic, a person starts developing discrimination properly. So there in sattvic, there's a progression to more clearer decision making, not based on the ego, but based on the Atma and Sakshi and Vichara. But that's also not over. Because in sattvic also there's ego, sattvic ego. You have to go beyond sattvic ego and become gunatita to become free from the totally depend on the Sakshi or Ishvara in your life.